Welcome to the Jaron Jarvis channel. I am Jaron Jarvis. Today, I would like to introduce to you, please get this to my parents. I woke up to multiple voices. I felt the stiff and narrow seat I was sitting on. Their aisle was filled with people removing their carry-on from the overhead bin. A voice called over the PA system, "Good morning ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived at Toronto, Canada, local time, 6:35 a.m., and it looks like a nice day with the temperature at a nice 18 degrees Celsius. We hope you enjoyed your trip and wish you a happy departure." I had the window seat, so I just sat both waiting for the aisle to clear up and trying to fully wake up. After about 6 minutes I was able to move into the aisle, take my small red knapsack and leave the plane, not forgetting my thank you as we were in Canada. Greeting me at the airport were Beth and Stephen, my aunt and uncle. Both of them were happy to see me, but a bit from the sleep this trip made them lose. It was a long, awkward drive from Toronto Pearson Airport to their home in Ottawa. I had only spoken to Beth and Stephen a couple of times on the phone. After I walked by my mother while she was talking with them, the same conversation ensued each time with cliches like "Hello, what's new, oh I'm fine" and the bunch. So I was beyond relieved when they said, "We will try to show you around, but we cannot afford to miss out on a lot of work," as the month of August was the busiest month for their catering company. We sat down, talked for a bit, and after 30 minutes they had to go to work. I tried to find something to do while they were gone, but since they had no kids, they lacked the things that usually entertained a 16-year-old. So I decided I could pass some time on my phone. This plan lasted 15 seconds. I forgot to ask them for Wi-Fi, and since my phone network only worked in England, there was no way to message them about it. So I slipped my phone into my pocket, and headed for the garage door. It looks like I'll have to actually go outside for once. I went through the garage, as I didn't want to leave the house completely unlocked, but I still needed to get back in, so I carefully lowered the garage door, making sure to stop just before the lock clicked. I looked at the street names and made sure to keep them memorized in case I got lost and needed a little help getting back McLeod Street and Arlington Avenue. It wasn't long until I found something to do. I saw an Apple store. I remember thinking to myself that Apple stores are usually in city centers or other busy places, not the suburbs. But it was there, and as long as I didn't buy anything, it didn't matter how real the merchandise was. I opened the door, and the cool wave of air-conditioned air hit me, causing me to indulge my weird side and close my eyes for a second and imagine I was walking through a cleaning chamber on a spaceship. This was a mistake. When I opened my eyes, I didn't see the tables filled with phones, iPads, and computers. I saw a windowless room illuminated by a single light bulb in the middle of it. I'm not sure exactly how large this room was, but I'm guessing about 15 by 10 meters and a ceiling high about 3 meters high. The single light bulb was dim and didn't really help me see the strange room I had entered, but I didn't care. I was spooked and wanted to get the hell out of here. I immediately turned around and pushed full force at where the door had been. They opened quite easily, and my use of excessive force caused me to fall on the floor outside the building. "Are you okay?" a man's voice called out to me. "You know, you aren't supposed to go in there," a woman's voice informed me. I looked up and saw a couple in their 30s wearing what seemed to me like costumes from what was supposed to be the 20s. Sorry, I didn't know that, I told them, and started to walk back home, trying to ignore their fashion sense and the weird store. Then I realized that the roads were in poor condition with very few cars driving around, and these cars had the classic. Not a single Toyota or Volkswagen parked anywhere. I was officially spooked and decided to ignore anything else and make my short trip home. I reached where Beth and Stephen's house was supposed to be. But there was no garage. Wrong house. I looked to the corner of the road and saw no street sign. Odd, I thought to myself. I walked up the rickety steps of the porch and decided to knock on the door. No one answered. I knocked again, but this time, after 15 seconds, a man approximately 30 years old flung the door open and yelled, "What are you doing knocking on my house at 4 in the goddamn morning? I'm sorry sir, but do you know where Arlington Avenue is?" He abruptly slammed the door and told me to leave him alone. I reached into my pocket to check the time on my phone. It couldn't be 4 a.m. I left the house at 9 in the morning. There was no way 19 hours had passed by so fast. I was sure I was only gone for 15 minutes. My confusion only got worse as I didn't pull out a good piece of metal that I had known to be my phone, but rather a solid block of it. No buttons, screen or logos. I truly was in the 90 years in the past. I had reasoned that it all started when I had entered the store, and if I wanted any hope of getting back home I would have to go back there. I didn't like the idea, but I didn't have any other choice. I had not food, money or shelter here, and I would not survive a week unless I headed back to the Apple store. I headed in the direction of the store, but I didn't see an Apple store. I found a car dealership that was about the same size. I didn't know what was going on, but at this point I didn't care, and entered the store anyways. I found myself in the same room that was barely illuminated by the single light bulb. The light was very dim and I couldn't see much of what was inside the room, but I could see an outline of a man in a trench coat facing away from me. I walked toward him as every fiber of my being was trying to pull me back, and get me as far from this place as possible. I tapped on his shoulder, and he tumbled down to the floor, and the sound of bone on cement echoed through the building. Just a second, an excited voice called out from seemingly everywhere. I heard the same sound of bone on cement again, but this time it sounded as timid someone was approaching me. I spun around as fast as I can, my heart beating so hard I expected to collapse and have a heart attack on the spot. I saw a 9-foot-tall skeleton covered in blood. I screamed at the top of my lungs, and he replied with a "Nice to meet you too, don't you humans know how to say hello?" I stood there speechless and baffled at the information my eyes and ears were sending to my brain. "Okay, so no hello," the 9-foot-tall creature continued. "I'm Paul, and I see you've met my bell skeleton, Dave." I forced out a barely audible "Sorry about him." "No need to be sorry," he replied. "Watch." And with the clap of his hands, Dave the bell skeleton assumed the same form he was in when I first walked in. "Anyways, my name is Benjamin, and what's yours, young man?" "Rob," I replied. "Well, nice to meet you, Rob. I run a type of shelter here, but you don't have to stay. You can choose right now, to play my game, or take your chances out there," Benjamin told me while pointing to the door. I'll play your game," I replied, trying to sound confident. "Wonderful, a contestant at last." Most people take their chances out there. Some survive, most don't, but they all come back here, to be rejected as they had rejected me before. "Anyways, here's the game. I will give you your phone. All you have to do is let one of your relatives know you're missing, and you will wake up as if this was all a dream. Except if they don't believe you, well, that's the doozy, cause you'll be staying with me until they believe you. By the way, you get one chance." My first thought was to call my parents, then you remembered that my plan didn't work overseas. "Got Wi-Fi by any chance?" I asked Benjamin. "Sure do," he said, snatching my phone and entering what seemed to be a password the length of a dictionary. He handed me back my phone, and started to draft an email to my mom, but I then realized that she works as a bank teller and she knew too much about email scams to believe anything like this, and as I didn't have anybody's WhatsApp or anything like that, I was out of options. So here I am posting it where somebody who knows my Uncle Stephen, my Aunt Beth or my mother Annabella in London, England might be able to see this and get the messages to them. And if I can relay any message to anybody out there, it would be don't walk into a building that is in a place that wouldn't make sense. Benjamin just returned with a rope. "Please get this to someone I know. My name is Josh Bella, and it looks like I'll join the many skeletons that hang high above me now."